Respect is rarely lost in one dramatic moment. It doesn't usually disappear in a fight, a betrayal, or some obvious public humiliation. Most of the time, respect dies quietly. It dies in patterns, in small repeated behaviors, in subtle habits you barely notice. But everyone around you does. That is the brutal truth. People are always reading you. They are studying your reactions, your standards, your emotional control, your availability, your boundaries. And while most people think respect is something you earn through confidence, success, or status, what they fail to realize is this: respect is often destroyed faster by your habits than built by your achievements. That's why some people work hard, stay loyal, stay intelligent, and still get overlooked, interrupted, ignored, or treated casually. So today, we're exposing 5 habits that secretly destroy your respect. And trust me, the 5th one is the habit that ruins more lives than people will ever admit. The first habit is over-explaining yourself. This one destroys respect faster than most people realize. Every time you justify your choices too much, defend your boundaries too long, or explain every decision like you need permission, you send a dangerous signal. You tell people that your actions are not rooted in certainty, they're rooted in approval seeking. And once people feel that, they stop seeing your decisions as final. They start seeing them as negotiable. This is why a calm no feels powerful. But a long paragraph of excuses feels weak. The more words you use to prove yourself, the more people sense insecurity behind them. Strong people understand a brutal psychological rule. The need to be understood by everyone is often the first crack in authority. If this habit sounds familiar, be honest. Do you explain too much because you want clarity, or because you're afraid people might judge you? Comment, clarity, or judgment. The second habit is being too emotionally predictable. Predictable emotions make you easy to control. If people know exactly how to trigger you, they already hold power over you. They know what makes you angry, what makes you panic, what makes you chase, what makes you overreact, what makes you break. And once someone can predict your emotional pattern, they don't just understand you. They can play you. This is why some people lose respect without even realizing it. They react instantly. They get defensive too quickly. They show pain too openly to the wrong people. They let every small provocation shake their nervous system. But respect grows around emotional discipline, around people who are harder to read, harder to trigger, harder to destabilize. Because the moment people realize they cannot easily move your emotions, they begin moving differently around you. And that shift? That is where silent respect begins. The third habit is always being available. This one looks innocent. It even looks kind. But psychologically, it's destructive. Always replying instantly, always saying yes, always showing up, always giving your time, your energy, your attention, your emotional labor, no matter how tired you are. It feels generous. But over time, it teaches people something dangerous. Your access has no value. Human beings naturally respect what feels limited, not what feels endlessly accessible. If you are always there, your presence stops feeling special. If you are always reachable, your absence stops carrying weight. This is why the nicest people are often the most taken for granted. Not because they lack worth, but because their behavior quietly trained others to expect them without effort. Be honest with yourself. Has your kindness ever turned into over-availability? Comment available if that hit harder than expected, because the next habit is where respect starts collapsing from the inside. The fourth habit is tolerating small disrespect to avoid conflict. This is one of the most dangerous habits a person can have, because disrespect rarely begins with something huge. It begins with a joke that crosses the line, a dismissive tone, a subtle insult, a broken promise, a pattern you excuse because you don't want drama. And every time you ignore it, rationalize it, or tell yourself it's not a big deal, you are not protecting peace. You are teaching people your limits are weak. That's how disrespect becomes normalized, not through one big attack, but through many small permissions. Most people don't lose respect because others are cruel. They lose it because they keep allowing behavior that should have cost access long ago. The moment disrespect becomes consequence-free, it becomes a pattern. And this is where most people realize too late that they weren't being mature. They were being slowly downgraded in the eyes of everyone around them. The fifth habit, the darkest one of all, is needing to be liked more than needing to be respected. This habit destroys powerful people before they ever become powerful. Because the moment your behavior is shaped by the fear of being disliked, your standards begin to bend. You soften boundaries. You hide opinions. You laugh at things that insult you. You stay in rooms that drain you. You say yes when you want to say no. You tolerate behavior that disgusts you, just to avoid rejection, and people can feel that. They may not say it out loud, but they sense it. They sense when your smile is negotiation. They sense when your kindness is fear. They sense when your patience is actually emotional dependence. This is why the need to be liked is so dangerous. It doesn't just change how others see you. It slowly erases how you see yourself. And once self-respect begins to crack, external respect rarely survives for long. Now here's the part most people don't want to hear. These habits are rarely random. They usually come from something deeper, a fear of abandonment, a fear of conflict, a fear of judgment, a fear of losing connection. Sometimes people over-explain because they were taught their choices needed approval. Sometimes they tolerate disrespect because confrontation once felt unsafe. Sometimes they stay over-available because they confuse being needed with being valued. That's why this topic cuts so deep. Because these habits are not just social mistakes, they are emotional survival patterns. And survival patterns feel normal until they start costing you your dignity. If you've ever looked back and realized, I didn't lose respect in one moment, I lost it in habits, comment facts. Because that realization changes everything. The good news is this: respect can be rebuilt the same way it was destroyed, through repeated behavior. Shorter explanations, slower reactions, stronger boundaries, less access, more emotional control, cleaner standards. The moment your habits change, the way people experience you changes. They start noticing that your no is real, that your silence means something, that your time is not endlessly available, that your emotional energy is not easy to manipulate. And suddenly, people who once treated you casually start becoming more careful, more measured, more aware. Not because you became colder, but because you became harder to handle carelessly. That is the real transformation. So remember this: respect is not just about what you demand. It's about what your daily behavior silently communicates. Over-explaining, emotional predictability, over-availability, tolerating small disrespect and needing to be liked. These habits whisper weakness, even when your words try to sound strong. But once you remove them, your entire presence changes. You stop looking like someone who can be managed, and you start feeling like someone who must be measured carefully. That is where social power begins. So now I want the truth. Which of these 5 habits has secretly cost you the most respect in your life? Drop the number in the comments. And if this video exposed something uncomfortable inside you, subscribe right now, because the next video is about the silent behaviors manipulative people use to test whether you're easy to control. And once you see those signs, you'll start catching danger before it ever gets close enough to touch your life. Miss that one, and you may keep blaming people, while your habits keep opening the door for them.